It is 12:59. Good afternoon from the Superbook.com sports desk. I'm Lucas Panzica. SEC Media Day starts next week in Atlanta, and Tennessee has announced the three players that will accompany head coach Josh Heupel. It is wide receiver Cedric Tillman, quarterback Hendon Hooker, and defensive back Trayvon Flowers. Of course, 3HL will be broadcasting live all week down at Media Days in Atlanta. Nashville Soccer Club announced today it is launching an MLS Next Pro team in Huntsville, Alabama, that will serve as a satellite club for Nashville, and it will begin play in 2023. Two Nashville players also announced as MLS All-Stars earlier today. They are defender Walker Zimmerman and forward Hani Mukhtar. The Atlanta Braves missed out on a chance to gain ground on the Mets in the NL East with a 4-1 loss last night at home. Robinson Cano going 2 for 3 in his Atlanta debut. Braves are now 2.5 games back, taking on the Mets again tonight at 6:20. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. What's going on, everybody?
Oh.
I'm alive. I'm alive.
There he is.
Oh.
What's it?
Man, I thought I was going to die yesterday, but I did not die. There's some weird stomach bug going around, and it went through my whole house. Although I don't think my son, well, I'm going to knock on wood, he didn't get it yet. Friday night got my wife. Saturday night got my daughter. Sunday night it got me.
Oh, okay. I was just make sure the virus got y'all.
It got us.
Right.
It did get us, but we got, but we're back now. You and Red and Double J, Jill Jelnick held it down yesterday, man.
Yeah, and some other guy named Lucas. So
Lucas, did he help yesterday too?
He's always in the backdrop making fun of us and everything.
Just lurking in the shadows.
Yeah. But, yeah, I have to ask you something about here on the at this 112. What is that?
I put the wrong name next to the live there. That is Mickey's live. a little inside baseball there for people.
Okay.
Yes.
I was like, oh, man, dang, nobody informed me of that. Oh, okay. Well, cool.
We're doing a little business here. It's almost college football season, SEC Media Days. Everybody's announced who they're taking with them. Do you have – I wanted to ask both of you guys this. Do you have a time in your head where it flips to football season each year? Because I had one guy tell me as soon as I've asked people this over the years. Like, I've had one guy tell me, he said, as soon as I see the college football magazines in the grocery store, to me, it's college football season. Then I had somebody the other day, I saw they tweeted after July 4th, they consider it like it's football from there on out. Do you guys have a time where you tell yourself, okay, it's officially football season now?
Media Days. SEC
Okay.
Media Days. That's where the switch gets flipped.
Talking about next week?
Yes.
So next week, it's go time for you.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm close to that. You know, being old school, naturally, when you see the magazines at the grocery store or, convenience stores or wherever, you say, oh, man, football's right around the corner, because you start getting interested and want to pick up the magazine.
Oh, yeah,
kinda
I
look
pick 'em
through
up.
it. Now that's kind of on social media a little bit. So when it gets on there, and I think I'm right there with Lucas. SEC, especially because going into that week when we used to go, I think 3HL will be down there next week in Atlanta. You're prepping all the way down there. It's going to be kind of interesting storylines besides all the realignment and everything else with college football and NIL and everything else. You really want to talk about the actual teams and the universities. So you kind of start getting that fever for it right then, really. I'm going to tell you, it starts revving up, though, on the 4th. Right when the 4th is over, I kind of start getting that mode up. For whatever reason, it's kind of continued over just being a player. You just kind of say football's here, and you just start smelling it in the air. Yeah, I start smelling the air. Yeah. Even when I go outside, I'm like, uh-oh, my allergies start acting up. That means I got to block it all out. Just go out here and get ready to rock and roll.
As a player, was it after the 4th for you, like you said, that you started to think, okay, summer's over, I gotta? Did your mind start pulling you back towards Like,
absolutely. My mind would go back to there. So I'm thinking about, okay, vacation, how long we're going to go, where we're going to go, what I need to do, what access will I have to, working out and all those things, whether it was running on the sand to yoga to just needing a weight room with a treadmill, just to survive and feel like when I came back, all the work that I've done all off summer wasn't, kaput, because my mind was still there, still trying to relax at the same time and enjoy my vacation. So, yeah, July 4th, that was kind of like that last little, I would say, party time and to relax and go to whatever function, whether family or friends, and then kind of move forward that it's here. Yep.
Well, I saw this from our buddy Matt Hayes, who was on with us last week. It's funny. We talked to him about all this stuff. I don't remember him saying the specific thing. He must have gotten the story after he talked to us. SEC presidents are not going to expand right now beyond 16 teams. So SEC Media Days next week, I'm sure everybody's saying he'll get asked. I'm sure he'll talk about this because he'll be at the podium. But this came out from Matt Hayes, I guess yesterday.
What was the exact quote?
We're positioned at 16 teams for a robust future. The need just isn't there. You know what that means to me? We called several teams from the ACC, and they could not get out of their TV deal for a while. So we're going to stay exactly where we are because Notre Dame's not coming here either.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, because I wanted to hear exactly, because they'll have a wiggle, a way to wiggle.
Oh, they have a way
statement.
out. Yes.
So, yeah, for now, I would say for now. That's what I would have stated for now. Yeah. So, oh, man. Now, how can the ACC, can they get out of their contract? And as much as I've been talking about Notre Dame, I was listening to a podcast. They were talking about where Notre Dame, if they did join the conference, they had to go to the ACC.
So it is part of their grant of rights that Notre Dame obviously has affiliation with the ACC, every sport except football. Right. So part of that grant of rights is that if Notre Dame were to leave their independence, they would have to join the ACC. So they would have to find a way out of that grant of rights if they wanted to join the Big Ten, the grant of rights that runs through 2036.
Oh, well, grant of rights in legal terms means I can negotiate my way out of this if I would like.
Yeah, but for a very, very hefty penalty, monetary penalty.
You mean money.
Mm-hmm. Or take it to court and fight that legal battle, which Oklahoma and Texas haven't found it worth it to fight to get in the SEC ASAP.
Well, if you're going to make triple what you were going to make if you join ACC compared to, let's say, SEC or the Big Ten, then you could just pay your way out of it because you're going to recoup that back later. So, Didn't know that. Though.
What were the estimates? Like up to $500 million, I think I saw at one point for an ACC team to possibly get out of.
$500 million.
Was it that or no?
It's the ACC.
That wouldn't be too much, would it?
I'm trying to pull up
like
this
the whole conference. I mean, man, $500 million.
There's a really good thread from David Hale, who covers the ACC very, very well, that I'm running through here, where he kind of details the economics. So give me a second to find it here. But it is an insane penalty. The ACC has a ton of security with that contract, or that grant of rights, rather, running through 2036, as opposed to the Big 12, where it only runs up until 2025. Like I said, if Texas and Oklahoma really, they probably would rather be in the SEC now, right? But clearly, it's not worth it for them to fight that battle. And so maybe they'll join a year early. They'll get to leave that a year early in 2024. Maybe they'll have to let it run its course and just show up in 2025. I think that should be telling as far as how hard it will be for ACC schools to get out.
Right. Well, but they're theoretically, Notre Dame can put their, claim that we were never really a part of the ACC. That's why I didn't understand the grant of right. Like, what does that actually mean? I can't see them having to pay $500 million. You said you saw something.
Not about Notre Dame, but for the ACC. Well, okay, you got.
I'm only talking about Notre Dame. I jumped to all the other ACC. I'm only talking about Notre Dame. That's what I was referring to.
Well, Notre Dame would have to buy its way out of this grant of rights just as much.
But but you're saying it's a figure like $500 million?
So David Hale lays it out, says, what would it take for a team to leave? An exit fee would be in the neighborhood of 120 to 150 million. Then, assuming the ACC allowed a team to buy out its media rights, you'd be looking at another 300 million or so minimum from 2024 through 2036. But he says the ACC has no incentive to settle for a buyout. Instead, it could simply say, we own all your broadcast rights. Your games will air on our network or not at all.
Ooh. What the heck?
That's some gangsta stuff right there.
Yeah, you could take it to court, but I don't think any program right now wants to fight that battle.
Well, why does Notre Dame athletic director, what's his name?
Swarbrick.
Yeah, he acts like we can do what we want to do, and like we can hold pat even if we choose to, like to stay independent and keep it moving. So that just doesn't all add up. That's why I wanted to understand. That's why we need a lawyer. We're going to get Dan Lusser, Daniel Wallach on to talk about, like, what does this grant of right actually mean? Because Notre Dame wouldn't be posturing like that to me. Like, we can go anywhere. We can stay independent. We can go to SEC. We can go to the Big 12. We can go wherever the heck. We can go back to the ACC if we want. That's how they're posturing. I don't know if I'm sure what that contract says, what it says, but it must be an easier way out. They wouldn't be paying $300-400 million to get out of a contract. If not, you'd be like, well, you stand put, so you need to keep your trap shut. Be quiet. Be quiet. You don't have nothing. Either you stay independent or you're in the ACC. That's it. And so obviously their lawyers haven't, talked to them about it. I mean, man, that sounds crazy. I can't even believe. I remember there was a sticking point. And that was the last little part. That grant of right, man. Ooh, that's a lot of cheddar.
He goes on to say the general feeling is, this is again ACC reporter David Hale, eventually someone will challenge the grant of rights in court, but that's problematic too. For one, the Super Conference writing was on the wall a year ago. Several teams have had lawyers look over the grant of rights. None have challenged it yet. What does that tell you?
All right. Well, I mean, anybody can challenge anything. Let's start there. This is, lawyers. But, yeah, nobody's challenged it because they maybe think they can't win. But there's always going to be one apple who could say, we're going to try this out, and we have a way out of it. And most of those teams they're referring to were already with the conference, so that's a little different from the viewpoint from Notre Dame. We were always outside, and we were only temporarily during COVID part of that conference. So that's a little bit different. I don't know if that helps them in their case, but a little different than when you've been in a conference for 30 years, and you're now trying to get out of a TV deal that you agreed upon with all of us together.
And they got to deal with NBC to worry about, too.
Right. So maybe there's some parts there we don't know or I don't understand about how they can finagle and get out of it, because I sure feel like they can.
Yeah, I felt like they could, too. And it's not to say that they couldn't. Their grant of rights has been for their Olympic sports in the ACC because they compete in the ACC and everything. But football... But I always thought, okay, surely it's not if you're not including football in the deal, you have your own football deal with NBC. I think Notre Dame could get out of it. I think Notre Dame has money too to buy out of things that they want to buy out of if they really want it out,
right?
And could challenge it if they want to challenge it.
Especially being a private school, they can go to all the billions of dollars they have
and endowments.
But does it have a tweak in the conference for the ACC? To your point, Mickey, is if Clemson or some other school, Florida, whoever leaves the conference, how does that affect the conference? And then does that give them more of an out?
So the conference, if over half the teams in the conference leave, it effectively would dissolve. The grant of rights would dissolve. But the problem with that is that would mean 8 teams, at least 8 teams that have to leave. You got to find landing spots for 8 teams. And how many teams are willing to leave and fight through all of those battles financially, especially without having a secure landing spot? It's a tough risk to take.
On the flip side of that,
wait. A tough risk. You don't do risk until you know you're going to another conference.
Right.
So there is no risk if you know where you're going.
Right.
And the money.
Which is what I'm saying. That's 8 teams that would need to know where they're going.
Oh, well, if Notre Dame says that 4 teams can ride with us, and then the TV people with the money are the ones who are really making the moves and controlling everything, and they add them to, let's say, the Big 12. I don't see that. Especially in the next 5 years. I knew it would be an out. Notre Dame has a lot of clout. I know people don't look at Notre Dame like they did when me and Mickey were kind of in high school and where they were just dominant. But they have a lot of clout and a lot of moolah. They're on a different level. So I wouldn't be shocked at some point. Maybe they're going to get a new TV deal as an independent, makes it bigger, or they're going to find a way to make sure they are always in the hunt for the playoffs in a national title. If their team is winning, especially the way they're recruiting now with Freeman, they got to believe that they are going to be in the hunt here in the next 3 years always after his recruiting classes start stacking up with each other. So unless they just say, "Oh, we'll just be the dominant team," in the ACC, and it'd be us and Clemson or whoever else.
Well, there's one thought that's a reverse of what we were talking about, that if Notre Dame is able to get out, that everybody else at that point goes and says, well, if they can get out, then we can get out. That if it cracks in any way from either the side of everybody else or the side of Notre Dame, that if there's any crack, that everybody's going to try to squeeze through it on the way out. That, Clemson could say, well, if Notre Dame gets out, we signed this grant of rights deal to be an Olympic sports grant of right with Notre Dame, and they're not in it anymore. This is not what we signed up for. Then you have something to fight. They all need somebody to start.
Right. Well, and then Notre Dame doesn't act. That'll then lead to the 8 teams. There's the crack.
Well, I'll tell you this. SEC, again, our buddy, I almost said Sean Hayes. That's a guy from
Michael Bratton, SEC?
No, Matt Hayes. Sean Hayes was from Will and Grace. Matt Hayes, Saturday Down South, reporting the SEC said they would stay put, which, again, the first thing I thought when I read that, and Lucas, I think I heard you guys talking about this earlier too, was that just means, okay, right now nobody from the ACC can move, and there's nobody else really that you would want. So, okay, that's what we're going to do. But I'll tell you this, if I was everybody else, I'd keep building as much. I'd keep trying to get to 20 or whatever I felt like my number was. I wouldn't stop if I was anybody else.
I want to hear Lucas. What do you think? How many teams? You think 16 for now, and then in the next 5 years they go to 20, or it stays pat for the next 5 years?
Yeah, I could see it. I could see it staying. I know, and I called my shot a few weeks ago about Clemson being in a future SEC school by media days, but with the more that stuff has come out about this grant of rights, I know Andy Staples got access to the grant of rights, and he wrote on it as well. I'm seeing just how much more complicated that is, and I could see everybody sort of standing pat for now. Notre Dame could make a decision in 2 years. Notre Dame doesn't have to make a decision today.
Sure.
So the Pac-12 could really be the only one immediately affected by this, and the SEC saying, hey, we're still going to be the SEC. We're still going to be Southeastern football. We're still going to have the best players. We're going to have the best product, no matter if we have 16 teams or 18 or 20 teams. So the SEC isn't facing the pressure here, which I think is comforting for SEC fans.
Well, by the way, the SEC's on top as players and probably conference, but the Big Ten has the bigger TV deal, right?
It does right now, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Boom, 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 boom.
Let's keep this college discussion going next. Ryan Callahan, recruiting director for Vols 24/7, is going to join us. Hypo and the crew have been hot lately, and we're going to talk to him about that and more. That's coming up next on Blaine and Mickey. Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. Oh, little Joe Walsh. I like that, Lucas.
Steve Walsh?
Well, there is a Steve Walsh who's a rock and roller as well.
Ah, see.
From Kansas.
Throw some of the curveballs to you. Or a quarterback whose name's Steve Walsh.
Yeah, I know that's where you were going with that. But there is also a rock and roller named Steve Walsh and a quarterback, and there's a recruiting guy for Go Vols 24/7 named Ryan Callahan, and he joins us now. RC, what's going on, man?
Hey, not much. How's it going, guys?
You tell us. I mean, it seems like Heupel's got the magic touch over there right now in Knoxville. I mean, I just figured it was, raining gold bricks or something over there. What in the world, man? The collective is getting it done.
Well, this is if you don't follow recruiting year round, this has become, when it comes to visits, we say June is the new January. June is a big month for visits, and that's because a lot of guys try to make decisions coming off those visits before their senior seasons, try to get that out of the way and not be a distraction to their high school teams. So a lot of teams are on a run right now, but to your point, Tennessee is pretty hot right now. They're up to number 5 nationally in the 24/7 Sports Composite team rankings, a big 5-star pickup over the weekend, Sean Davian Bradley, an edge rusher from the Kansas City area. So, yeah, they're definitely on a tear and obviously picking up some serious momentum leading into this season and kind of showing the benefits of, a positive first year under Josh Heupel and NIL and all that stuff. I'm sure a factor too, but Tennessee doing a lot of things right, clearly.
Absolutely. And you mentioned number 5 now in 24/7's rankings, which I thought, gosh, I wonder where that places them in the SEC. Well, it places them first right now.
What?
Yep.
Yeah, which
now. I was going to say, just a word of caution on that. I will say, I don't think they're likely to stay there in the long run because a lot will change between now and National Signing Day, and 2 of the teams right behind them, not too far behind, Georgia and Alabama, they're still going to get their share of guys. So obviously a lot of work still to do. I think, frankly, finishing in the top 10 would be a really good finish for Tennessee, given where everybody is around them and how much competition there is. At schools like Miami, Penn State, Texas, also having very good years. So there's going to be a lot of competition just to get a spot in the top 10. But just to be where they are right now with 2 5-stars already in the class, two players who are ranked among the top 10 edge rushers in the country in this class, obviously the 5-star quarterback at the top of the class in Nico Iamaleava. So a lot of really good players. This is, there have been times in the past where Tennessee's been ranked this high. A couple of years ago comes to mind under Jeremy Pruitt. They were up to number 2 in the rankings at one point that spring. It felt a little more smoke and mirrors-ish. This feels real. This feels like they're getting really good players that other programs are wanting and that they're beating out some legitimate competition for them. So I think this is more likely to stick at least toward the top of the rankings and maybe have a chance to finish in the top 10 as opposed to this just kind of being a hot start that's more likely to fade as time goes on.
Got Ryan Callahan on with us at Ryan Callahan 247, recruiting director for Go Vols 247.
Well, Ryan, what has been more important in the recruiting trails? Coach Heupel or the Tennessee brand?
I think it's a little bit more the brand overall. I say this all the time, and this is not to diminish at all what this staff has done, because I think one of the stories here is definitely that Josh Heupel is turning out to be a better recruiter than I think people thought he might be coming out of UCF. That was obviously one of the big questions about him. Because people looked at those results that he had at UCF, and he's in the 50s and 60s nationally. But I just say you're comparing apples and oranges. It's just a totally different level of player that you're involved with at Tennessee compared to UCF in almost all situations. And so he's got doors open that and he's been at a big program before. He knows how to recruit to a place like Tennessee from his time at Oklahoma. So I think he knew what he needed to do and how important it was and the kinds of battles that his staff was going to have to win. I think he has a lot of confidence in his staff and has some good people in his support staff as well. He's got a lot of guys who've been at Tennessee in the past under previous regimes in his recruiting office, kind of heading up the operations there. Guys like Scott Altizer, Brandon Lawson, that are not big names but do really good jobs in their roles behind the scenes. So they've got a good system in place, a good staff, and he's turned out to be a better recruiter. But I think Tennessee has done well under most staffs that have been there. You go back and Derek Dooley, Jeremy Pruitt, everybody that's been there basically has been able to sign at least a top 12, top 15 class within their first two full years. And so we're seeing that again here. Now they're doing a little bit better, I think, than most of those staffs did in their first or second year. But There have been, Butch Jones had a top 5 class in his second full class at Tennessee. So there have been some success stories before. Now it's a matter of sustaining it and taking advantage and getting some on-field results to back it up now to kind of keep this thing going.
How surprised are you? We're on with Ryan Callahan with 24/7. That they've gotten some, I guess, really good defensive players, because Hypo, naturally everybody thinks offense and the quarterback, Nico, and everything else. But, man, they're doing a great job, the entire staff, let alone just Hypo, but on the defensive side of the ball as well.
Yeah, I think you could argue that's the most important part of this class. This class is going to be largely defined, of course, by what Nico Iamaleava does in the long run, just being the quarterback and being the star of this class rankings-wise. But for Tennessee's success in the long run, to your point, they're going to have to get better on the defensive side of the ball, and I think they knew that. It's been a priority for them to upgrade the defensive line, upgrade the edge rushers, certainly upgrade the secondary, where they've had some trouble in recent years really filling out all of their needs, and they're off to a pretty good start in those areas. Still plenty of work to do. They're only at 18 commitments, and still have plenty of spots that they want to fill beyond what they already have. But yeah, especially at the edge rusher position, touched on that before, but what they've done in this class and the previous class, that position is so important. And what they've done in these two classes, it really gives them a chance to turn around this defense pretty quickly if those guys live up to the hype. They signed Joshua Josephs and James Pierce, who were both top 247 prospects in 24/7 Sports rankings last year, highly coveted guys from Charlotte and the Atlanta area, respectively. And then this year, getting the top in-state prospect, Caleb Herring, already been committed for a few months, and then Shondavian Bradley from Kansas City. The two guys like that, combined with what they got last year, that gives you a chance to really stack some talent at a position where Tennessee's not done that in a long, long time. So, it fixes your secondary, makes your defensive line, it makes everybody better if you can get to the quarterback off the edge like that, and that's going to give Tennessee a chance to be pretty competitive. And as we saw sometimes last year, get that offense a few stops on defense, and really you've got a chance to win some games with the points they're going to put up. So I think that's been a priority for this staff, to fix the defense, and they've done a good job so far. Now just need to get a few more pieces, especially on the defensive line and at cornerback, to go along with what they already have.
I'm going to quantify this. Who are going to be some impactful first-year players in whatever role that may be on offense and defense that are newcomers to the program these past 2 seasons?
Now, do you mean just this class that is already arrived on campus, or the one?
Yes, the one that's on campus, as well as the recruiting class that's coming in, just kind of making it
okay. Yeah. So for this year's class, I think one guy from the mid-state. I'll start right there. I think Elijah Herring on defense has been a pleasant surprise in some ways. Not a surprise maybe to the people who've followed him closely throughout high school. I think there was a sense among some people I spoke with that Tennessee was really getting more of a steal there than people realized, but he's been very good so far, I think, in his first 6 months on campus, and really has a chance to at least carve out a part-time role for himself this year at linebacker. And I'll be fascinated to see just how much he can do. So I would start there. On offense, I would go with maybe a couple candidates. Justin Williams-Thomas at running back. He's going to have an opportunity to get on the field early. And then Chaz Nimrod at wide receiver, I think, has a chance to challenge for some playing time there based on what we saw this spring. He was very good during spring practice. In this next recruiting class, it's going to be interesting. The quarterback position will obviously be the focus. Does Nico Iamaleava become a day one starter? Or, I think Joe Milton is sticking around thinking he's going to have another chance to compete for that starting job once Hendon Hooker's out of the picture. So maybe Nico's not a day one starter, and he's going to have some developing to do still once he gets to Tennessee, but he will be there in January as an early enrollee. So that's a real possibility. On defense, I think both those edge rushers, Caleb Herring and Shondavian Bradley, at least have a chance to contribute part-time. And then at cornerback, another guy from that, I guess, mid-state and southern Kentucky area, Christian Conyer from up in Bowling Green, he's going to have a chance to compete right away at cornerback. So certainly he's one Tennessee really needs to get there and get in and upgrade the talent at cornerback, where they've really struggled to win some big-time recruiting battles. That was a recent win that they were really excited about, beating out Kentucky for him.
With that, being at the top, let's say in recruiting, let's say just top 5, maybe they'll finish there, is what you're kind of alluding to. Does this change the expectations for this upcoming season? That's naturally what the fans are always asking, because then their expectations kind of skyrocket a little too soon.
I don't know that the recruiting causes expectations to go much higher, but I think they're going pretty high on their own as it is. I think a lot of people see Hendon Hooker and Cedric Tillman back and see the schedule. I've had some people talk with me recently about the schedule and say, hey, looking at this on paper, there's no reason they can't win 9 games, right? And that's where I think we always kind of say that a win gets added to the projected totals by a lot of fans in this final month before the start of the season. So I think you're going to see a lot of those 8-4 predictions become 9-3 and even 10-2 over the next several weeks. Now that might be a little bit pie in the sky for my taste. I still think you're expecting a lot if you're projecting 9 or 10 wins, but if things all fall Tennessee's way, I mean that's not out of the question. They've got to do a little bit better on defense, and they do have a lot to replace on that side of the ball. How well can they replace Alontae Taylor, Matthew Butler, some of those guys that went to the NFL draft, even Cade Mays on the offensive line. They do have some big shoes to fill there. Velus Jones on offense. Can Brew McCoy, the USC transfer, be as good as expected at wide receiver? So they do have some questions to answer, but there are a lot of opportunities on the schedule, and to me it all starts with that month of September. Beat Pittsburgh and beat Florida, and it opens a lot of doors. And if you lose those 2 games, on the other hand, it lowers expectations right off the bat, and you're suddenly going to be fortunate to get out of there with 7 or 8 wins. So we'll see how they do, but I think expectations, to your point, are already kind of getting higher just based on what they have coming back in that schedule.
There you have it from Ryan Callahan, 247.
So who's next? Who's next on the wish list for 2023? Who are the next names maybe for Vol fans to look forward to seeing you guys put that information out?
Yeah, a few more guys that still might make summer decisions. There's another big offensive line target, Stanton Ramil from the Birmingham area. That's a kind of a Tennessee-Michigan State battle, it sounds like right now, but Clemson and some others still heavily involved. He's planning to make a decision, it sounds like, closer to the end of the month. Wide receiver Nathan Leacock out of the Raleigh, North Carolina area. That's been more of a Tennessee-NC State battle, and I think Tennessee's in pretty good shape there. Could see a decision from him as early as next week. And then still battling for some additional help in the secondary, cornerback Ricky Gibson, also out of Alabama, looking at maybe an early August decision. So still a few more of those types of announcements that you can expect to see maybe over the next 3 or 4 weeks. But certainly Tennessee's had a nice run so far, and it will slow down a little bit, I think, for the rest of the summer, but still going to see a little bit more activity, and you could see Tennessee hit 20, 21 commitments if things fall their way over the next few weeks. Rico Walker, also another one, 4-star edge rusher from North Carolina, certainly closing in on a decision. Hasn't announced a date yet, but could see something this month as well. So a little bit more to watch, and we'll obviously have that covered for you on GoVols247.com, but summer's not over just yet.
Okay, I had to ask you about this guy because he's a giant. Sham, 6'6", 235. Yeah. What in the world are they feeding this guy? No, this is no sham.
And let me tell you, that is just a big kid. Sometimes you see those measurements, and they're just, it's clearly a guy that needs to, reshape his body a little bit or improve his conditioning, and he's, maybe a little bit out of shape. Not this kid. This Chamorrod Humero is the guy you're talking about. He's a 4-star offensive tackle. Even at that size, really projects as a right tackle probably at the next level. Very good athlete. Talking with his offensive line coach for a story we posted on the site last week, he mentioned that his thighs essentially match up with a size 42 pants, but then his waist measures as a 36. Ooh. So he's just a large guy. It's not that he is out of shape at all. He's pretty lean, and then he's 337 pounds. So he's just a big kid and still filling out. That's the amazing part, is his shoulders and everything else still can get bigger. So he's just a large human being. Originally from Russia, moved to the United States when he was 1. Has a really interesting backstory. His family's Turkish. So definitely someone that Tennessee was excited to get, a long-time priority on the offensive line, and one of those guys that I think has a real chance to be, somewhat of a steal. He beat out Georgia for him, but I'm not sure he was quite as much of a priority for Georgia as he was for Tennessee. But I think that's a really nice pickup out of the Atlanta area, and someone who has a chance to play for a long time on Tennessee's offensive line.
Well, on that note, I've never asked someone this, but what is his daily food intake? I mean, when you hear that, then you hear the measurement, you go, well, dang, man, how are they feeding this humongous giant who's actually, has measurements, looks like, well, I mean, his measurements not too bad.
Yeah, and I don't know the answer to that yet. I'll have to talk with him more about that, but I'll say this. his offensive line coach, they took over at his school going into his sophomore year. He was 215 pounds or so playing on the defensive line going into his sophomore year. He said he's added about 40 to 50 pounds every year for the past 2.5 years, basically. And so now he's 337, just a large kid who's apparently still maybe not completely done growing yet. So I think ideally you're looking at maybe a 330-pound tackle who really doesn't have much bad weight on him. That's a pretty rare find.
Wow. Holy cow. Ryan Callahan, our guest at Ryan Callahan 247. Go Vols 247.
Well, last question before we let you go is can you give us an update, more on on the renovations of what they're going to do to the stadium there?
Yeah, they're finishing up that this offseason's round of renovations. You can see from the latest pictures, the jumbotrons or video boards, which the old one has been swapped out with technology matching the new one that they're installing in the north end zone. That's pretty much completed. I think the focus is more on getting the seating area along the lower west sideline completed, and we'll see if that gets completely finished in time for the first game. I think there could be some finishing touches that aren't totally done, but everything should be operational certainly in time for that season opener on September 1st against Ball State. So it's coming along nicely. I think fans are going to like what they see. And, this was important to a lot of people, but they announced not too long ago that capacity will be, as we had been told all along, still six figures with some of the standing room area that they'll have in the north end zone in front of that new video board. Capacity will still be over 101,000. So it should be a nice upgrade, and still a lot more they need to do there, but that's all in the works. And this offseason will, what they've done, it'll look noticeably different, I think, with that second video board especially.
RC, great stuff, man. For people who want to follow everything Vols recruiting related and more, go Vols 247, of course, the place to go. And for just like up to the minute updates all the time at Ryan Callahan 247. Thank you, sir, for the time.
Appreciate it, Ryan.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Yes, sir. Ryan Callahan, always good to catch up with him. All right, when we come back, a Titan has been chosen first on a list. It's season of lists.
Oh.
A Titan came in first. I'll fill you guys in. Next, who was it? Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. It's a season of list. Am I supposed to be stumped by this music?
Yes.
Okay.
Who was that? We have stopped our Mickey, music guessing list.
Is that it? Here, let's see. Let me hear it.
Back in the bad old days. What the heck?
I like it.
It's definitely a curveball. I'm trying to figure out what Mickey's look looks like, and it looks like he's puzzled. We got him stumped?
Okay, let me hear the chorus. Oh, the night Chicago died. It's Paper Lace.
Nice.
Okay.
Oh, man.
Eat it, whoever sent that in.
That was at I am Chenry or I am C Henry, I guess.
I am C.
on
Henry.
Twitter.
I am Chenry.
Uh-oh, but you still haven't finished it.
What year?
Yeah, what year?
Yeah, you got to take a
Yeah,
gander.
yeah. Yep, you tipped the ball. You're a DB right now. You tipped it. He didn't catch it, but
I
did
get
you
credit for a
intercept it?
PBU. That's a PBU.
But that's still good. But you got to get the pick. So can you get the pick?
Man, I should get credit for the PBU here. I'm going to say 1974.
Yep.
Yes.
Chenry, take that on the chin.
That's
You
amazing.
not only got a pick, but you took it to the house.
That's a pick six right there.
That was the longest developing one. I could see the gears churning in your head.
I thought this is the night Chicago died, but I haven't heard the beginning of that song in forever.
I like
Probably
that. I like that song.
1975.
I had never heard of that. I'm gonna
Oh,
add
no,
that
there's a
one.
lot going on there with that song. A lot going on with lists all over the internet right now. ESPN has been, I don't know if you guys talked about any of this yesterday because I was out. If you're just joining us, I was, although I'll say this, I got this 24-hour bug, but like my thermostat in my body is still all messed up. My thermostat is still, I don't have any fever or anything like that, but I still feel like I'm glowing right now and not in a good way.
Like an out-of-body experience?
Yes. I don't know what it is. I do know this. If you guys haven't seen this, so ESPN, they did a group of executive coaches, scouts, and players. It's like 50-plus people. That probably means 51. But 50-something people connected to the NFL. If you just ask me who would they pick as the top running back in the NFL, who would you guys say they picked? Well, I've already tipped my hand on this because I said Titans number one. I would have thought they said
it's going to be Henry or Taylor from the Colts.
100%. I would have thought they picked Jonathan Taylor.
Right, because he's always at the top of the list.
He's always at the top, just like the Colts are at the top of every list. It was actually Derrick Henry.
Well, especially since Derrick Henry didn't play most of the last season.
He did not.
So I would have thought they would say Taylor. If I was going to guess, I would have said Taylor.
This is what they said. His highest ranking of any, he got number one votes. His lowest ranking on a list by anybody was number 6. Can somebody explain that to me? That he's the 6th best running back in the NFL, even coming back from the foot injury. Like who could write down? They were asked everybody to put 1 through 10 for all these different positions. Who could honestly write Derrick Henry and put 6 next to him? What am I missing?
Well, name 6 guys? Well, here's what I'm going to say. Now, some people look at running back as not just the best runner. So they're going to say the guy who has the most versatility. He's a great runner, receiver, blocker, all those things that they want, a running back to be. And so I could see how somebody could say maybe 3 guys or 4 guys. I'm just off the top of my head. I mean, somebody could say Dalvin Cook is better than Derrick Henry. Yeah. I'm going to just say the name because he's more of a complete back. Kamara or
He's
McCaffrey.
5. Cook is 4. Kamara's 5.
McCaffrey, but he hadn't played the last.
Let's see. Mixon is 6. McCaffrey's still 7.
Mixing.
And dude hasn't played.
So that's when some people look and say, but when it says best running back and you're saying the best runner of running backs, he has to be at the top of the top, if not 1 or 2, Derrick Henry. Now, I thought his game was getting better with the pass receiving, but we never actually see him run routes. We see him run flare passes, screens. That's still impacting the game, but that's something he didn't do, and it's been added. So it shows he's working on it. I don't know if he'll ever be the pass catcher some of those smaller backs would be, and everybody's going to be small to him.
Yeah,
but,
that's true.
And I think that's why they look at that way, and that's how you get five guys on it. I would never vote him that way because in totality, your job is the main job is to run the football.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in this world of you want a versatile back who can do everything, there's a price you pay with a smaller back, and that comes with the injuries. So
Alonzo pointed out Jonathan Taylor actually got a 7th place vote. He was listed as getting that. Here's what they said about Derrick Henry. Henry and Jonathan Taylor tied for the most first-place votes, but Henry went out on composite score. He was pacing for 1,900 yards before a foot injury cost him his 9 regular season games. This is a quote, "I'd still give him one more year at the top," said one coordinator. He's the constant for that offense. No matter who's around him, I still trust him to make it happen above anyone else. You can give him the ball 30 times, and he won't disappoint.
yeah, I think we all know those things. A lot of people saying one more year. That could be here or there. Whatever you think is great. I don't know what that means to me. I feel like he still could be a 13, 15-yard back, and I think he can do that for 2 or 3 more years.
I do too.
Easy, and maybe even longer. Now, if you want him to be this 1,800-yard guy or more from here on out, I think then there's questions. But to me, if he consistently in the right scheme and system who's going to devote to the run game, that I have to quantify that. If he left the Titans and went to another team, they have to commit to the running game like the Titans do. I think that helps him because there's a part of him that it takes him a minute to get going. Still today, he still has to have 2 or 3 carries. Some guys are one carry, boom, they're ready to rock and roll. There's still a part of him that he needs to get a handful of carries before he's ready to rev up. So there's always a build-up to him. So I think he can keep doing what he's doing for a while at a 13, 1,500-yard pace. I think he can keep that going for a while.
See, I do too. Now, what his next deal will, because he's got 2 more
years on his deal?
Yeah, isn't that right?
I think so. Yeah, it all depends on how well he does this year. If he gets 15 or more, I think the Titans would probably try to stay with him that one more year. Yeah.
Yeah, I tend to lean that way as well. He's got this year.
You do have Haskins, and I actually like him for the value they got him. What was it, the 4th round? Oh man, I think he's a bruiser, and he does not play. He's a 6'2" version, if you want to call it that, of Derrick Henry with the physicality. Maybe sometimes a little more physical with his style. And that's hard to say now. I don't think he has the top end speed as Derrick Henry. There's not too many guys, and especially at that size, that can hit top speed like Derrick Henry, sprinter speed.
Yeah, and that big.
Yeah, but he's going even against the 5'10", the 5'11" guy is still not hitting the top end speed like Derrick Henry once he gets to rolling.
All right, let's do this when we come back. Let's talk Titans safeties. Our guy Justin Mello has a little something out there that backs up something that our buddy Terry McCormick said recently, and this involves Titans safeties, and you will want to hear all about it next. It's Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone.
It is 2:02. Good afternoon from the Superbook.com sports desk. I'm Lucas Panzica. SEC Media Day starts up next week from Atlanta, and Tennessee announced the 3 players that will accompany head coach Josh Heupel. They are quarterback Hendon Hooker, wide receiver Cedric Tillman, as well as defensive back Trayvon Flowers. The Atlanta Braves missed out on a chance to gain ground on the Mets last night at home. They're going again tonight. Braves are 2.5 games back in the NL East, taking on the Mets again at 6:20. 2 Nashville SC players announced as MLS All-Stars earlier today, defender Walker Zimmerman and forward Hani Mukhtar. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Blaine Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. Tuesday afternoon, halfway through the show. How's everybody doing? We're doing great.
Mm-hmm.
Safeties are doing great for the Titans. That should make Blaine Bishop happy. So the NFL's doing these lists. We finished our number 1. Derrick Henry is the number 1 running back on the running back list ahead of Jonathan Taylor. That was actually surprising to me. ESPN polled a group of executives, coaches, scouts, and players, and they're doing this for every position. I was
only surprising because they give Taylor the number 1.
I forgot. Yeah, not because of anything I think or don't think about Derrick Henry, because Jonathan Taylor's number 1, and the Colts are always picked ahead of the Titans on everything. They're the paper tigers of the division. Everybody's got the Colts. I mean, I've got all kinds of Colts notes where they're picked to make the playoffs or Super Bowl sleeper, everything. And they haven't won the division since, 2014? The Jags have won it since they've won it. The Titans have won it twice since they've won it. The Texans have won it more than anybody.
And that's really disappointing.
Yes, it is. Texans have red helmets now. Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw
For one game.
For one game, yeah. That it's not red. It was kind of a fire red.
Yep. Oh, that's
like
a lot of red.
Like a burnt orange.
I honestly didn't hate it. I'm not going to say that I.
Watch this. You know I love two-tone helmets.
Yes.
And that was that. But so why do you like that when it didn't like the Jaguars?
The Jaguars helmet actually was like 2 totally different colors.
Right.
I hated that.
Oh, I know. Nobody did because they changed it but me.
You were the only. I hope they send you one because you carried the flame for that here.
I like that. I mean, this is kind of somewhat that. It goes like a fiery orange to dark.
But it's all kind of mixed together, though.
Oh, it looks too. I don't like it. I was trying to be in the middle on it.
I just like red.
I do like red. I just didn't like. It's not red. It's a burnt orange.
Here, let me
pull it up again. Maybe because I was.
I need to show you a picture of it in regular light.
And then they had the Texans logo still the same colors around it, like you could see the blue and I didn't like it.
I'm going to show you a regular picture of it.
Let me see.
In regular light.
Maybe I got a little box picture. I like two-tone colors. That's why I was shocked at you. I just don't think that goes. Then you got the red and the navy blue mixed with burnt orange.
Yeah, the red of the helmet.
We got to get Lucas to break the tie. Lucas, have you seen? Is Lucas there?
He's there.
Nobody there. Oh,
did you like the Texans' red helmet?
I did not like it.
Yeah, I like it. I don't know. I never have strong opinions about uniforms.
Okay. Well, we know Mickey does. So
Mickey,
you gotta kind of come up with something. You can't be in the middle. Either you do. Oh man!
I think I like it.
Why? It has blue, navy blue, and red with fire helmet color, burnt orange behind it, like a fiery black shaded orange.
I mean, I should not be trusted.
When I say that, I say like because it's darker orange. It's a darker burnt orange.
You think that's a nod to the Texas Longhorns to try to get them a few more fans?
Absolutely, because that does not go with navy blue and red.
I'm not good at color schemes. I'm the guy that walks out of a room and I'm like, this works, right? Yeah, this totally makes sense. My girlfriend looks at me with a horrified look, like, oh my God, no, you can't put those colors together. To me, that color scheme,
that's exactly what my issue.
It doesn't
I
match.
like those colors, but I just don't like. I don't think they go well together.
Okay,
that's like having a backdrop on a painting, burnt orange with navy blue and red. See, you see that, you get excited.
I don't see as much orange in it, I guess, as you maybe.
Oh man, it's like to me, it's like a burnt orange, like a fiery orange, like fire. You don't see that, huh? Maybe I'm just seeing it that way. Yeah, that's how I see it.
All right.
Yeah.
It doesn't match the Texans' other red, though.
No.
It does not.
Yeah, but I get where they were going. I wish they had some different colors on there. I don't even like the navy blue with it. But you know what? I'm probably not going to like pretty much anything of the Texans.
That's fair enough.
Yeah.
Are you going to like it when the Titans wear the Oilers stuff?
Oh, I'm always genuinely excited. I thought they should be, doing it before, but I get why they weren't. But you have to embrace the history of the organization. So I thought it was appropriate. Now, if they didn't move from somewhere and was created, like Jacksonville Jaguars just started, then I don't think you should be doing that in honor. But so yeah, I think they should. I think they should do. It should be a ritual that they do that once a year and against different teams, not just the same team every time they play them or something like that. They should be able to, in memory of the organization under the name of Oilers, they should continue that every season. That way, people like Lucas could understand who the Oilers were.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. And like you said, not just every time against the same team. Like, don't just make it okay.
What Jaguars?
Yeah, and no, not every time. Let it be against different teams. And
yeah, it could be like, here's what I would do. I would just have it on the same weekend every year, and whoever the opponent is, that's who they play.
Okay,
they don't have to do any throwback or any history there, but it's the same. That way people get used to. I'm coming to that game. Maybe that's the alumni weekend that the former Titans and Oilers, or you make it just the Oilers. Because reason why I say that, the Oilers players have no games to really go to.
Yeah,
as alum. And so they've been inviting them to the Titans games, but when you're honoring the Oilers, you kind of see the oil derrick and you say that's the team I played for, even though this is the same ownership group that owns the Titans. So it kind of makes it all together.
Derek says, wear them every time you play the Texans, because a lot of Texans fans think the Oilers are their history.
Right.
Yeah, I think they should wear it against the Texans first, just to rub their nose in it.
Well, naturally first, but it has to be a home game, not going to Texas.
Oh, no, wear it here. Yes, absolutely.
But, some people will say, well, it'll be easier to get the Oiler players because a lot of them still live in
Houston. Titans and position player list on ESPN. So Kevin Byard is listed as the number 3 safety based on this ESPN poll of execs, coaches, scouts, and players. Number 1 is Justin Simmons of the Broncos, picked as number 1.
Yeah, 31.
Minka Fitzpatrick is number 2. Okay. Then Kevin Byard.
Okay, I don't have any arguments to that. Kevin
Byard got a 10th place vote from somebody.
Well, I would say Kevin Byard's a top 5 safety if I was just generally talking. So, that's how I feel that he's, which is elite class of players. Who's the guys behind him?
Derwin James of the Chargers is 4. Buda Baker, Arizona, is 5. He's an interesting player. Jesse Bates of the Bengals is 6. 7 is Harrison Smith of the Vikings, who's been consistent year after year after year after year for a long time.
He's from Chattanooga.
Yep. Marcus Williams, Ravens, is 8. Antoine Winfield of the Buccaneers is number 9. And hanging in there at number 10, Jamal Adams. Now, he's getting paid better than all of them, but he is number 10. So then you got honorable mention guys, and then you got also received votes. Apparently they were really kind of deadlocked at the safety position, but Amani Hooker was one of the players who got votes.
And I've been saying that the Titans safety combo, it has to be in the top 3 combo safeties in the league. I said this a month or 2 ago. I've been saying it even during the season. The way Hooker has developed, and his acumen is really high for a young player. I've said that when he came into the league, and he's continued, the more and more he's played, the better he's actually, I think, played than I thought he would. I mean, man, that scoop in the Bengals game and that interception, that's top notch. So, yeah, hearing that they're negotiating with him is not a surprise to me. It's really how much do you think you should pay him, and then how much do you want to allot to the safety position. I think Byard's got maybe a low cap number this year, but Hooker's probably, I'm going to give a wide range of where I would go with him, $8 to $12 million per year. I think he's, I want to say $10 million, boom. But he may think, and his agent may think he can get more than that on the open market. I don't know. He may could get 12, but he can't get into the level of where Byard's like what in the 14 million. He's not in that class yet. Now, if you watch him one more year, he could possibly be there. So, and then you say he's the strength or the number one safety on whatever team that is.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a smart move, and because Byard is probably going to start having somewhat leveled down a little bit, but that's still, I mean, he's going to be still a top 5. So you can get away with 2 high-paid safeties for a year and maybe another, especially when you've kind of converted, where you're going to spend your money maybe from like the offensive line because you don't have any, high-priced players there besides Lawan. Ben Jones is a solid paid player. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they got that done. Just depends on where he's at though. Hooker and his agent.
You have Justin Mello reporting what Terry McCormick reported a couple of weeks ago. Mello reported that he had spoken to Monty Hooker, that he and the Titans are having ongoing contract talks. Kevin Byard's cap hit, or his year, I'm sorry, let me give you this. His cap hit this year is $7 million, but his cash that he's getting paid is $12.5 million. His dead cap is $19 million this year. His dead cap next year is $13.6 million. His dead cap the following year is $8.1 million. So he's set to make $12.5 million this year. He's going to make $14 million next year, $14.1 million. Then he's going to make $14.1 million in the final year of the deal. So he's got this year and 2 more years left on his deal.
Right. So explain to the listeners dead cap, because in my mind, all I want to hear is what his cap hit is and what he'll cost against the cap.
Cap hit is 7 this year. Like
So
you said, it's lower.
Mm-hmm.
But next year it's 19, and then the next year it's 17.
You can renegotiate it next year. That way, then, if you signed Hooker, then it's only 2 years you're working with them, that they had 2 high-paid safeties. But I'd be interested to see what people think, who are some of the better safety combos. I mean, we're a little biased because we get to watch them, at least me, every week. And I understand what they're out there doing, and they're both versatile players.
You know what was surprising to me on the list? That neither one of the Buffalo guys was even in the top 10. They're both honorable mention. I think in the past, the Poyer or Micah Hyde would have been in the top 10, but neither one was this year. They were both honorable mention.
Man, I think together they're great, but as individuals, they're probably right at the end of top 10 or outside of it. Yeah, as individuals. And I would probably put them 1, 2 if you put them at 11 and 12.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Really good players, though. I really like their skill sets. And you know what? I don't know how much they make, but I would put Hooker with their skill set and his ability to make plays potentially after this year if he keeps on the development and run that he's going on. And I firmly believe that he will be.
It'll be interesting to see.
So then you will have a top 3 safety and then maybe a top 12 safety matched together.
Yeah.
There's 32 teams.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
There's at least 2 on every team that are playing that are included in that. So that'd be 12, 3 and 12 of 64 starting safeties. Yeah, it'd be pretty good. Be worth some money for sure. Coach Mack is worth some money, but he's going to join us for free next. And it's free to you to listen, and you're going to learn a lot of stuff. And Coach Mack will join us next to talk all things Titans and NFL. Blaine Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. It is Tuesday. You hear the music. You know what that means. You know that it means Coach Mack is going to join us. And here he is right now. Coach Mack, how in the world are you doing on this beautiful Tuesday?
Mickey, I'm doing great. I'm down here in Cookeville at Stonecom with Larry Stone and Doug Matthews. We're planning out the season of coach to coach and trying to get our thoughts together for the first 3 shows. We'll be dropping the second week of August, and we're here. I know when I have this meeting down here at Stonecom and Cookeville with Larry Stone and coach to coach that football season is right around the corner.
Coach, you know, there's a Buc-ee's down there now that's right past Cookeville.
It's in Crossville. No. Larry Stone already talked about it.
Okay.
He said, Coach Mack, tell me what you know about Buc-ee's. I said, everything. He said, people are driving just to go to Buc-ee's. I said, it's worth the drive.
Well, I mean, that's as close as you're going to be for a while. You may have to head down there and get some beaver nuggets and some barbecue or something today.
It's in Crossville. It absolutely is, and it's a big hit down here. So Doug and I and Larry Stone, we talked about Buc-ee's at lunch.
Well, I love it. We were having this discussion to start the show, kind of like, when does your mindset sort of start to really turn towards football season? I was going to ask you, so where are we today? It's July 12th. All right, at this time of the year, we're past July 4th. We're just a couple of weeks away from camp, anything like that. Where was your mind right now at this point of the summer?
So I was already into it.
Okay.
I mean, once the 4th of July is passed, and I think a lot of that was conditioning from when I first got in the league, because we used to go to camp a lot earlier. We would go to camp, 2 weeks ahead of the preseason game. We'd go to camp probably the 6th or the 7th of July when I first started. So I was really conditioned for all those years that I first started, that when July the 4th was over, you were into it. And so that's the way that I've always been. And as I said, I was in the studio this morning, just talking with some guys before we drove down here. Doug and I did. And, they've asked me what I've been doing. Well, what I've been doing now, I've been watching Baltimore defensive film, and I've been watching Giant offensive film, because that's what we're going to face the first week of the season with the Giants. And so I'm getting myself familiar now with the 2 play callers right now. I'm not really looking at the Giants personnel as of yet, but I'm looking at the guys that are going to be calling the plays on both sides of the ball, just so I can start to get prepared. And as I said, that's what I did when I was coaching, and that's what I'm doing now.
Well, I looked. I just got curious. The first preseason game is just a little over 3 weeks away. I mean, we're going to be into this before we know it, Coach.
Yeah, now you go in 15 days before your first preseason game. As I said, back when I first started, we would go in either 3 or 3.5 weeks before, so it was always earlier. But yeah, I mean, it's right here on top of us. I mean, and your mind never really leaves it a lot when you're coaching, and it doesn't if you're playing either. You can ask Blaine, and I'm sure he was the same way. Your mind never really leaves it, because once you get out of the OTAs, what you're doing is you're getting yourself physically, you're getting ready, but every day after a workout, it's one day closer to coming back for real. And then you start to brush up on the things that you've done in the classroom too. I know that Blaine did that, and because a lot of the players that I had all those years, that's what they did too.
We look to Coach Mack for the Mack Attack every Tuesday. You can look to the folks at Farm Bureau Health Plans when you need somebody who knows health care coverage game plans. They've been protecting Tennesseans for 75 years, Farm Bureau Health Plans.
Well, Coach, I have to ask you, we have to start it off. Mickey, I guess last week kind of gave us a little overview of all of the history of the Oilers, and K.S. Bud Adams getting nominated as a coach contributor for the NFL Hall of Fame. Just kind of give us your thoughts on that. I feel like he should have been in a long time ago, but maybe I'm a little biased. Kind of give us your thoughts on that.
Well, really, Blaine, as you well know, and I think all Titans fans know, and the National Football League knows. I mean, the National Football League would not be what it is today without the Foolish Club. When they started the AFL, I mean, it would not be the same. It would not be what it is today. Without Bud Adams, Lamar Hunt, and those other 3 that put it together. And basically, challenged the National Football League. Bud Adams was a pioneer in going out, and signing Billy Cannon, going out and getting some of the premier players that were going to be top players in the NFL draft. And their success, the success that they had early on was what, finally brought the NFL, the old NFL, to the table, and that's why we have the NFL as it is today. I mean, you don't have the NFL as it is today without Bud Adams. He should already have been in the Hall of Fame, and so I'm a huge proponent of his induction into the National Football League Hall of Fame, because we wouldn't have the league without him.
Yeah, no doubt about it. We went with Coach Mack giving us the Mack attack. I guess how big is this, I guess, when training camp starts, the next 5 weeks in training camp, is it for not only all the players, but one in particular player, because his attributes naturally, if he can be on the field, Traylon Burks, how much could that impact the team? So how important is this training camp for him?
Well, it's vitally important. It's vitally important. I mean, this is his time now, to come in and to be, look, wherever you're taken, this is your chance to come in. But being a first-round draft pick always carries a stigma with it, both good and bad. But just for his development professionally, this is a huge camp for him. And it's very, very important. I don't think you can lessen the importance of it at all. I mean, and the work that he's going to be able to get in this camp is going to be even accelerated, I think, just because of the fact he's really fortunate, because he's got two teams coming in the Cardinals and in the Bucks, that he's going to be able to work against, which will help him, hone his craft even more than being familiar with the people that he's working against, as you do sometimes in training camp when you're just going against your own team. So the time of year for him, to me, is vital to his early development in the National Football League. He's not going to be a finished product by the time this camp gets through, but it is a very important time to start on that path, and then we'll see where the season goes. He's going to be developing all during the season, like all rookies are. But his initial steps for this camp, it's vitally important.
No doubt about it. We went with Coach Mack giving us the Mack attack. And I was looking at the running backs, the backup running backs, and behind the king. And I'm like, man, this sure seems like some quality backup here. Somebody's going to get lost out of the shuffle. Can you talk a little bit about not only the rookie, but some of the veteran guys that they brought into camp and what they bring to the table?
Well, I think most of them to me fit in one or two categories. I think very honestly, when you look at the running backs that are behind Derrick Henry, none of them are Derrick Henry. But here's where most all of them, any of them that stick with this club, they're going to have to be special teams players, Blaine.
Yeah.
And that to me is because in some form or fashion, any of them can carry the football, because that's what they have done. All right. Those that have been in the league already understand how important the special teams are to them. But if you are a second and a third back if you're the third back on an active day roster, if you are not a core teamer, then we've got a problem. We've got a problem with the number of people we're dressing. So before you even start about them being running backs, they're going to get trained there. Craig Aukerman, his training for those guys and deciding which one of those guys are going to be an integral part. And again, that's why this training camp is so big. That's where these guys, to me, fall into a category, not so much their ball carrying ability, but who's going to be able to be active on Sunday. Because if you're active on Sunday or Monday or Thursday, whenever you play, that's what's important. And the first way to get there, especially as a down-the-line running back or a down-the-line tight end, even a down-the-line receiver now, the way it's going in the National Football League, you got to be able to play teams. You got to at least play on two of them.
Well, Coach, I have to ask you this. This is one thing that I could never figure out, but I just had it. I don't know why. But when the pads came on, somehow I was just a different player. It was just totally different. And then some other guys are totally different. Why, when the pads come on, you get to really see football players?
Well, first of all, it's a mindset. And second of all, during training camp, you really find out because now see, it's different now, Blaine, than when you were
right.
When I first started coaching, because you had both times when you first came in the league, 2 days were 2 days in full pads. I mean, you had 2 days in full pads, and some of it was finding out at that time who was going to be able to take the grind of the physical grind of the season. And it's a mindset. Yourself, even as much as you loved it, there's times when you're sitting there on that in front of your locker before you put your shoulder pads on, about that 7th or 8th day of camp going, wow, Do I really want to do this?
No, Coach, I never did that. I never did that. I was like, I hope I'm capable of doing this.
Yeah, well, whatever you thought, there was a thought process that went through it.
Yes.
And when the pads are on, it just makes a difference. Plus, that's the way you play the game. And once you start practicing with pads on, it's different because now everything there, even though it's you say it's low contact, it's still contact. It is still different, especially when you go your run drills, even in your one-on-one drills, even in your 7-on-7 drills. Now, as a DB, you can play through the receiver. Everybody's padded up. You can play through it. You find out who are the guys that can finish with pads on because you're not finishing a whole lot when you're in shorts because you can't and you shouldn't. You've got to protect each other. But I agree with you. I've seen it throughout my whole career. There are some guys just can, and we always used to say this. Some guys, it's like great horses. Some horses can just carry the saddle better than others.
I like that. We're with Coach Mack, carrying the saddle for the Blaine and Mickey show. There you have it there, Coach Mack.
Coach, how much of the offseason, like percentage-wise, do you spend kind of looking back and self-scouting as you're trying to build what you're going to do the next season? But how much time do you spend looking back at your data and your film and building what you're going to do the next year?
It's constant. It's constant, and it's constantly updated during the year. And then once the season is over, look back on it. And it's very much different now than it used to be. Used to be before free agency and the salary cap. Even as a coach, you knew who the opponents were, and especially in your division, you knew who the players were. After you'd been there 2 or 3 years, you pretty much had the same guys. Turnover was very small. Turnover now, 35% of your team that's turning over. You've got to get acclimated yourself as a player, as a coach, and as a broadcaster. I mean, Mike Keith is constantly updating our roster. Every time I go to practice with Mike Keith, he's got a new roster right now to hand me because he's got it updated with everybody, where they are, and expects us to get familiar with who they are because so that we can, legitimately talk about them during our preseason broadcast. And then once you get into the season, it's a great question that you ask because we are constantly updating personnel and how personnel might be used. I mean, so to answer your question is answered like this: constantly doing it, because if you don't, then you're behind.
Wanted to ask you about this. Obviously, the Titans have an opening for somebody to win at right tackle and an opening for somebody to win at left guard. Rookies report on the 23rd. I think vets on the 26th. Then we get rolling. How quickly? I mean, is this a rhetorical question? Basically, they want to get this solved as soon as possible for chemistry, but what do you think the target is for Vrabel and his staff to know who those guys are who will start?
Well, they'll know when they know. And as I say, this preseason is really set up to find out those types of things because of the type of camp it's going to be. It'll be a physical camp for a week, the first week especially. And then even going into the first preseason game, there's going to be plenty of time for the offensive and the defensive linemen to get their pads set against one another. It's going to be a constant evaluation, but you're going to give everybody as much chance as possible, and you particularly are going to want to be able to have some real, clear, concise, and pure evaluation with those 2 weeks when the Cardinals and the Tampa Bay Bucks come to town in those practice times. That's going to be extremely, extremely important. It's not anything that you have to rush immediately, but you have to be on the path towards it, because then, see, you've got extra time now, because now playing 3 preseason games, you've got time now before the first regular season game starts. So, but up until probably, before the first regular season games, the week heading up into it, you want to have that pretty well set so that you can practice with those guys. But this time is going to be a very, very important time for just those positions that you mentioned. The offensive line particularly, this is an important time not only to find 2 guys to be on the front line, but to let that front line start to coalesce and come together.
Sure. Coach Mack, our guest, giving us the Mack attack here on Blaine and Mickey.
Well, Coach, outside of the quarterback, I guess, who has the most pressure? Which Titan has the most pressure on them, I guess, going into this training camp?
Well, I don't know if it's pressure, but I mean,
Mhm.
you've got some expectations
Mm.
on some people. Your first round pick always has expectations, and Caleb Farley has expectations. And there's expectations on him. I mean, pressure to me is a different connotation. I mean, but you have people that this is a time where they need to start to step up. Okay, I mean, that's extremely important, and we've got several people in that category. I mean, Dylan Radins is one, in that category who needs to be able to step up. But pressure, I think, is a different word because nobody's going to put pressure on anybody to perform or do anything. It has to come from within. But expectations from within, I think a lot of those guys have something to prove to themselves.
And no doubt about it. Speaking of proving themselves, I guess talk a little bit about their contribution and even compete to maybe potentially, start, well, at least Aaron Brewer. What are the thoughts on him getting a chance to be, competing for left guard spot as well as, bringing it home and having confidence because now he's been in the league. Size doesn't really matter. It's about production. Do you think he's capable of winning the job at left guard? Or having a chance.
I do, but he's going to have to do it on the field.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the one thing that's a big advantage to him. He's very athletic. He's extremely smart, and he's a really, really good worker. So absolutely, he has an opportunity. I would say more. He has the opportunity to do it, but as you know this, Blaine, and I think that we can say this to our listeners. There's only so many opportunities in a professional athlete's career where an opportunity presents itself as to where you can make a real difference in what happens with your future. This is one of those for him. And so you have to be cognizant of it, but then you've got to go out there every day and you've got to be able to grind through it. You're not going to be perfect every day, but you've got to go out there with a mindset of, I need to get better, a little bit better today or improve, or I need to be able to step up my intensity every day until, because you never really get there. Look, I coached a first ballot Hall of Famer, Mike Singletary, and he never ever thought he was there. The first thing he would do, after the draft is really before the draft, would come to me in March and sit down in my office with a blank pad and said, "What do I need to work on? Mm-hmm. Where do I need work? What do I need work? Let's break it down finitely to some specifics I need to work on before I get to camp, and then during camp, we're going to stay focused on this." I mean, that's the mindset you have to have. And regardless of whether you're a future first ballot Hall of Famer or you're trying to win your first starting job, you need to have that same mindset.
There you have it, Coach Mack, giving us a Mack attack.
Coach, fantastic stuff. Looking forward to next week already. And, man, we'll be out there sweating to the oldies watching practice again soon. And I can't wait to stand next to you and have you tell me stuff.
Yeah, I can't wait to be watching ball with you guys. We'll see if I can get Doug Matthews to drive down and go to Buc-ee's before we come back to Nashville.
Hey, do it. Do it. Tell him we said hey, and tell Larry Stone we said hey, please.
No doubt.
I'll do it. See you guys.
Yes,
Thanks.
sir. The one and only Coach Mack. All right, we've done a little bit of list season today. I got another list coming up. One more for the road. And I'll just tell you, Titans fans, you will hate this. You're going to hate it. So stick around. Blaine and Mickey 1045 The Zone. Rhythm Nation. Nice. We were at the Super Bowl in
Which one?
in Minnesota.
Ooh, Minnesota.
And they did all of the media stuff in the Mall of America. And so we were in the food court of the Mall of America.
Oh, yeah.
And I turned around and saw Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis walking through this food court.
What?
Who produced all that stuff for Janet Jackson. They just were walking through the food court in their suits. They always wear their suits.
That was the Prince Super Bowl, right?
No. He was years ago. This was the Super Bowl was once the Minnesota got the new stadium. This is probably 4 years ago.
Okay. Prince is from Minnesota, right? So I
He
guess I
is.
just
But
lumped
he
those
played
together.
one of the warm weather places because he played in the rain. And he asked,
that's
could you
right.
make it rain harder?
You make it rain harder.
But no, Prince, I think he may have already been passed away by the time this happened.
Yeah, you're probably right.
But it was the high one day was like -3 there. It was the most excruciatingly awful thing to try to have to go anywhere. We really didn't go anywhere. We just kind of went back and forth to the mall where we did our show every day. I also found out the Mall of America does not have a heating system. It has no heat in Minnesota because I guess it has so many windows and there's so many people in there, it heats itself.
Was it toasty?
What about when
It
it's
was- it was
cold
comfortable.
outside and nobody goes hardly to the ball?
I don't know. We can Google
I've been
search
there a
it.
couple of times when it was like 10 feet of snow too. By the way,
I swear, we studied it while we were there. No heating system. I swear somebody told me that.
Oh,
It has air conditioning, but no heat. I'm gonna ask Siri right now. Then I'll give it-
wait. But you got
Does
to.
the Mall of America have a heating system?
We're waiting on Siri.
It has no central heating system. All the heat is generated by people, lighting, and skylights.
Oh my!
And it's cold there.
She lied to you.
No,
you know
I
know,
knew that.
You know I know Siri personally.
All right, I got to read this.
Did you know that I had Siri on air?
Yes, I was on with you.
Oh, okay. I was going to say.
She said our names, but she wouldn't say the name of the show because she said she gets paid a lot of money for that.
Oh, okay. We were on 3HL at that
Yeah,
time,
Susan Bennett. That's her name.
You're not supposed to know.
Oh, sorry. Siri's her name. She has no name other than Siri.
Yeah. Lucas didn't know her name. Now he knows. That's the lady that says Siri. She says she's underpaid, by the way.
All right, I'm going to give you guys this list you're not going to like, but let me tell you this first. 1045 The Zone brings you the Split Happens Bowling Bash at Brooklyn Bowl, Nashville on Wednesday, July 20th. Join us for a night that you don't want to miss as we raise money for the church at Mount Carmel's Youth Summer Camp at Brooklyn Bowl with special guests for a fun night of bowling, and it's all to benefit charity. Tickets include free bowling, bowling shoes, food, drinks, and raffle tickets. You can get yours online at 1045thezone.com. Get your tickets. So Conyer Orr of Sports Illustrated had this list of 13 teams that can make the Super Bowl. 13 teams. So if you're a Titans fan, you would think, my team's top 13, right? I mean, is that reasonable?
No, they have them ranked 22 or somewhere.
Well,
crazy.
that was the roster that they had
But
ranked.
They still have them. They never have them in the top 15.
13 teams that can make the Super Bowl per Conyer or a Sports Illustrated. These are just all of the AFC teams. Bills, Bengals, Ravens, Colts, Chiefs, Chargers, Broncos, Raiders. Yes, every team from the West is on the list. No Titans. From the NFC, Dallas, Green Bay, Tampa Bay, the Rams, and the honorable mention team is the Eagles. All of these teams can make the Super Bowl, but not the team that was first in the AFC last year and will have a healthy Derrick Henry to start the season this year. And a defense that could be even better than last year. Could be. Now, they got some questions on offense. I'll give them that.
Well, I think that's where it comes from, and this is an offensive-driven league. I think they see two offensive linemen to replace and then A.J. Brown. I don't know. They even going to say, oh, Derrick Henry, how will he return from the injury? I don't think that's a concern. Pretty much, I think it's a small percentage. I think he's fine. So, and I think he'll be what he was when he, stopped playing before the injury. So, I think that's where it comes from. And then looking at the stats of the Titans, we could talk about it if we want to. We could say, oh, the other defense is, really good, but passing game-wise, they weren't. Stats say it. So I think that's why no one has them in the top 15.
Boy.
No one. In national, anybody. And that's why you can question some of the teams in the West. I would think that they're right there with them, with the Chargers, Raiders, even the Broncos.
Yeah.
So I feel like they're right in the mix with those teams, right there. If I'm being a true non-homer person, that's where I think they fit, right up in there. So that'd be at the bottom of the list, but that's top 10 to 13.
There you go. Not in the top 13. All right, our music is running out. That means we got to go, and that means 3HL is coming up next. We'll pick this up again tomorrow, maybe.
But in the meantime.
And in between time,
Peace.